exciting things that we have coming your way. Let's just move it and I'll fit.
Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Lifestyle Construction Show. I'm Billy Wiest. I'm glad you're here with us. This week we're going to start our new class of Lifestyle Construction, our 12-week program where people are going to change their lives and their health. They're going to be able to know exactly how to obtain optimal health, wellness, and fitness through the education that they're going to receive. So we're really excited to see all the things that are going to happen to change these people's health status and the way they feel and the way they think and their ability to exercise and all the things that they want to accomplish. So I'm looking really forward to seeing you on Thursday and Saturday of this week. Now on this week's show, we're going to continue to talk about the myths that many of us believe to be true in America that can hurt our health. So this week, we're going to talk about how omega-6 fats, or vegetable oils as we know them, are not the way to cook with, really not even, we should really never even consume them at all. And we'll talk about some of the reasons why as we go through. And this week, as I did last week, I want to start by introducing a very important member of the Lifestyle Construction team, and that is Cody Nations. He's our Director of Marketing and Social Media. He's responsible for all the videos that you see. He does all our editing and those things. So I just want to introduce Cody.
Thanks for having me on, Billy. I appreciate it, man.
Glad that you're here with us today, Cody.
So let's start with basically what you just said about the omega-6s versus the omega-3s. Tell a little bit more about what an omega-6 is, like the types of oils that they come in.
Right. So we would think of the things that we're told are healthy to cook with, such as canola oil being one of the major ones, corn oil, cottonseed oil. Those type of oils, soybean oil, we're told to cook with those oils because they're healthier for us than saturated fats. And it kind of goes back to some of what Cole and I discussed last week, that saturated fat has gotten a bad rap, cholesterol's gotten a bad rap, despite the fact that the research shows that these cottonseed oils, corn oils, canola oils, or omega-6 oils are actually way more harmful for our health than the saturated fats.
Right, and I've got some notes here that says that all genetically modified foods, that what we're talking about here, 88% of all corn oil is GMO, 90% of all canola oil is genetically modified, and 95% of all soy is genetically modified. So I think that really speaks to what you're saying in terms of what people are buying, how it's marketed and sold to them, because that's all over the shelves. Whenever you go into a grocery store and you're walking down that aisle with all of the oils, what we're going to talk about in a second, the best oil for us, and coconut oil, only has about 2 or 3 spots, whenever all of the rest of it is corn oil and soybean oil and canola oil.
Yeah, well, and that's because that's what we're told is what we're supposed to do. So obviously the stores carry more because they sell more, and a lot of people buy it thinking that they're doing the right thing for their health or for their family's health.
Right.
And so that's why we want to go through these myths, and we want to talk about some of the reasons why those aren't the right ways to go for your cooking or consuming, and why some of the saturated fats such as coconut oil, grass-fed butter are much better choices for not only cooking but consuming in general.
So last week, whenever you and Cole were talking about the cholesterol and the myths that go around that, tie that in a little bit to what you're just talking about with the saturated fat, and tell us why the coconut oils and the grass-fed butters are better than what's on all 99% of the shelves around those products, such as the canola oils and things like that?
Well, we'll start with the fact that coconut oil is 90% saturated fat. It's naturally occurring. Nobody has to modify it genetically to make it saturated fat.
Right.
And as a saturated fat, it contains a little over 60% of that is medium chain triglycerides, or medium chain fatty acids. And medium chain fatty acids, unlike the fatty acids found in those oils, they're typically polyunsaturated, some monounsaturated oils in those typical oils we've talked about already. Medium chain triglycerides create energy. They're detoxifying. They have all kind of benefits for cholesterol lowering, heart disease support, diabetes support. So they just have so many benefits. Coconut oil is about 50% lauric acid, and which has amazing antimicrobial, anti-infection, think antibiotic type effects. It also contains capric acid, which has just tremendous anti-infective effects again, or antibiotic type effects. And so there's just so many benefits to that. Not to mention that, as we talked about last week, we see many people's total cholesterol levels, and certainly their cholesterol sizes and ratios, improve dramatically when we start them on the right saturated fats and getting off the omega-6s.
Right.
So the omega-6 fats actually create an environment that creates those smaller cholesterol particles that Cole and I discussed last week, which are the dangerous cholesterol particles. And saturated fat helps make the bigger particles that we talked about being the fluffy balloons or clouds that will bounce through the arteries nice and safe. So those are some of the reasons we want to consume more saturated fats and less omega-6.
Is there an amount or a ratio that you would recommend for omega-3s and or omega-6s versus each other?
Sure. In a perfect world, Cody, we would be 1-to-1. The ratio would be 1 omega-6 to 1 omega-3.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, in America now, as we've discussed before, we're one of the most obese, more diabetes, more heart disease, more cancer than any industrialized nation. And we're at about a 20 to 50 to 1. So we have 20 to 50 times more omega-6 oils that we find when people are studied than they do the good omega-3 oils. And some of that comes from consuming so many processed foods, so many fried foods, so many pre-made things that we're just consuming because these unsaturated, cheaper oils that are produced, that are modified, are easy to put in these products. And so they're everywhere today. And unfortunately, a lot of restaurants now cook with them, and they think that they're healthier because that's what has been told. As a matter of fact, I have a really good friend who runs a restaurant, and we've had this discussion, and the first time we had this discussion, I was talking to him about what kind of oils he cooked with. And he said, I cook with the really healthy stuff. We use all the vegetable oils. We use corn and canola and soy. And he thought he was doing the right thing. Now, they've since switched, since we've had some discussions on this, such as what you and I are doing. But it's such a misunderstood, or a myth that we're discussing, that we really need to understand.
Right.
20 to 50 to 1 versus 1 to 1 is a huge difference, and we're seeing some of the ramifications of some of the diseases that we're dealing with in America today from it.
And I think one of the things to underscore here is that not all oils are created equal. And I think that for the majority of people out there, that's one of the things that they think about. It's just that it's an oil, I'm cooking with it. It's almost like because it sort of disappears into the food, or it is absorbed into the food, like it doesn't really matter, but it really actually does matter.
It really makes a huge difference.
Right. And on that point that all oils aren't created equal, we've had this discussion a little bit, and I wasn't convinced until doing a little bit more research on it myself, but olive oil. Olive oil is now, all the rage, kind of along with coconut oil, because it's considered healthy.
Right.
And maybe we can, draw the line in the sand and sort of determine what makes olive oil healthy, and then what you and I have been talking about this morning, what potentially could make it unhealthy.
Right.
with heat. So
Right.
we know that molecularly heat will have an effect on the types of oils that we're cooking with. So with olive oil, what type of effect does heat have on it versus whenever it's not heated?
Yeah, so olive oil can certainly be a super source of good quality fats, for sure. The problem is when we heat olive oil, it does change the structure of the olive oil, and we damage some of the beneficial effects of the olive oil. So while we recommend olive oil in a lot of the homemade salad dressings that we have in our lifestyle construction program as a drizzle over our sauteed veggies once they're already cooked and the heat's turned off, it can be very beneficial to get good fats in through olive oil that way. It's a huge part of the Mediterranean eating plans that are out there, the Mediterranean diet, and those are very healthy ways to get in those mono and polyunsaturated fats. The problem comes when we heat olive oil. Olive oil does change, and then it becomes a not so healthy fat. And so we don't recommend ever cooking with olive oil. We recommend only cooking with coconut oil, 90% saturated fat, much harder to damage even at higher heats, and or grass-fed butter, about 64% saturated fat. Again, harder to damage when we're cooking with it. So we just make it simple for people. There's typically two things you should cook with, and that's coconut oil and grass-fed butter. Use your olive oil and if you want to use other nut and seed oils, those can be beneficial also, but we just typically don't want to heat those oils. We want to save them for our salad dressings and our drizzles and things that we do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, all of those things tying back into last week with the myths and stuff, this is another one of those big myths that hopefully we've identified for you and brought some clarity on, especially for me, like with the olive oil, because I think that, again, we're told so many different things, or we're just told one thing, like olive oil is just healthy and it doesn't matter how you use it, what kind it is, or anything like that.
Yeah.
So hopefully some things like this of what we've been talking about is shedding some light on these myths.
Well, it is, and so let's talk. We talked about 1-to-1 would be the perfect omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, but most Americans are 20 to 50 to 1 omega-6 to omega-3s. So some of the ways that we can certainly help improve that ratio and get closer to 1-to-1 is to stop using the omega-6 oils. Stop using the corn oil, the canola oils, the soy oils, the cottonseed oils, using those vegetable oils that are so-called healthy. That's the myth. So we reduce our intake of omega-6s. And again, any processed packaged food, the vast majority is going to contain these omega-6 oils.
Right.
So we can reduce our intake of omega-6s, and we can increase our intake of omega-3s through the high-quality fish oil products that we recommend, through good wild-caught fish. I mean, there's ways to get our omega-3s in without, as we lower our omega-6s, so we can hit that ratio from both sides of the battle, and we can really start to see people's, and we do see in every group of people who go through the class, their cholesterol ratios start to improve, their triglyceride ratios improve, their HDL particle sizes improve, their LDL particle sizes will improve. So some of the simple things, we can take out the bad oils out of our cabinet, we can take those vegetable oils out of our cabinet, and we can just replace them with coconut oil and grass-fed butter. So that's a simple thing that can make a huge difference in the #1 killer in America, which is heart disease. So just simple, practical tips that we want to give you that you can take. Don't be scared of saturated fat. Just use it wisely, and it can actually be very beneficial to us as we cut out some of the fats that are not nearly as effective for our health.
Thanks, guys, for watching another episode of the Lifestyle Construction Show. We'll be back next week, and we'll be talking about more myths that we hopefully can shed some light on and provide clarity on. As always, please go over to the Facebook page, like our Lifestyle Construction page, comment with questions, anything that you want to talk about. Make sure that you go over to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe at Lifestyle Construction. Thanks so much, and we'll see you again next week.
See you next week.